welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Christiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs covering all things theater. And I have a really special guest today, my friend Will Pomerantz, the Bay Street Theater Associate Artistic Director, who is about to direct a new production, the final production of the Bay Street Theater summer season, which is going to be the classic Ragtime Tony Award winner. Will, thank you so much for coming.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. So I don't know where to start. Since we've been chatting so much already about this incredible musical that you're going to do at Bay Street, and it opens on, it starts previews August 2nd and opens on August 8th. And let's tell them where they can get tickets before we even get started and remind them again later. At Bay Street. Yeah, you tell them.
No, well, I know that you go to our website, baystreet.com. I mean, .org, sorry, baystreet.org.
And the telephone number is 631-725-9500 if you want to call. Their box office opens at 11 till showtime every day.
Yeah, you can show up in person or right down in downtown Sag Harbor, right on the wharf at the end where Main Street meets Bay Street, and I think it's baystreettheater.org. But if you just do a search for Bay Street Theater, our website will come up first, so you'll find us.
I'm so excited looking forward to seeing this. Everything everything about it's exciting. The production was been twice on Broadway, a Tony Award winning production, written by a local, Terrence McNally.
Well, actually, it's two locals, because you can also count E.L. Doctorow, who wrote the original source material, the novel of Ragtime. And in fact, E.L. Doctorow's son and his widow will be coming to see the show, and we'll be taking part in one of our talkbacks. We're still figuring out which date. So the family will be involved. But yes, Terrence McNally, who wrote the actual script for the musical, was also a local. So there's definitely a local connection.
And then we have Stephen Flaherty, who wrote the music too. So
brilliant. And Lynn Ahrens, who did the lyrics. And I consider it one of the great musicals of the last 50 years. I really do. I mean, the more I work on it, the more I appreciate the craft and what they were able to do. And it's just an unbelievable score. It's an incredible piece of work. And the way they've woven their three main storylines and the way they've woven them together is so artful and so effortless. It's quite astonishing. And it's really been a privilege to work on it. We're about not quite halfway through our rehearsal process now, and I've been able to, come to appreciate it even more than I had going in. And I already love the show.
I already love the show too. And just doing my research to reacquaint myself with it, and I've seen it 2 times, I'm discovering all the things that you just said. I feel the same things are making me even more excited to wait to see what you're going to do with it. And I just want to tell our audience, you did one of the finest productions at Bay Street, which was how can you? Evita.
It's sort of a re-envisioned version of Evita. Yeah, it was a very successful for us, and I was happy about that because it was an experiment. It had never been done this way, and it was set in a very specific context. It all took place in a tango bar, and the denizens of the bar are putting on the story about Evita for each other, basically, and reliving the glorious years of the Perrons. And from their point of view, there were different opinions about the Perrons, obviously, but from this group of people's point of view, they were great lovers of the Perrons, and particularly Eva Perron. And there are parallels to this approach. For this production, I'll just mention, one is that I have a lot of the same production team, a lot of the same designers. So it's a really great sort of creative brain trust we have that I've worked with before. I'm really thrilled about. And there's the other similarity is it is again a very specific context. There's the space is configured like a large sort of attic space, and everything takes place in this attic, which has all of these wonderful old props and objects from early in the 20th century and through the 20th century. And those are then deployed to create different settings, and they're used by the actors as hand props. And we are able to move fluidly from place to place in a really wonderful way using that vocabulary.
What was the inspiration to come up with that concept like that?
That's a good question. I started thinking of this a couple of years ago. It was originally scheduled to be done in 2020,
right.
And then it had to be canceled because of the pandemic. And I'm trying to reach back.
I mean, it's fascinating. It sounds brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, there's a wonderful, he actually died recently, a wonderful theater maker and thinker named Peter Brook. And
I know Peter, I know the name.
yeah. And I'm a fan of his, particularly of his writing. I saw a few of his productions, but he talks about in one of his books on directing, what does he call it? The it's the creative hunch, he calls it. It's sort of an idea that's not totally formed, but it's like an instinct that you have, and or an image, and then you can sort of go to that image and sort of plumb it and see what comes from it. And that image sort of came to me of this attic space, and because this, this all the events of this take place in the past, and the past, so much in any country, and including ours, the past informs the present. Mm-hmm. And I found the attic image growing in a way that it helped me think about the play and my approach to it, because it becomes more almost of a metaphorical attic for our entire country. It's where we, when we want to get rid of something or we don't want to look at it, and we really can't throw it away, we put it up in the attic.
Right.
So by going through these stories that deal with issues of immigrants and what it is to be an immigrant.
Issues we don't want to deal with.
Right. Race, the role of women in society, who gets to, write history, who calls himself American, and what it is to be an American. All those things we sort of want to shove away for a little while. So in the course of the show, we go through this attic, we root through the attic, we live this past, and the hope is to help us become a more informed present. And the attic itself sort of transforms in the course of the evening. I won't go give everything away, but so it's one of those things. And when these ideas, and the same thing happened with Evita, I had this notion of this tango bar, both because I love tango as a form, and I'd never thought there was enough tango in any of the productions I'd seen of Evita.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I'd love to lean into the tango, and how do we do that? And so this idea happened, and once I started researching it, Perón himself was a great lover of tango. And tango,
fascinating.
Yeah, and tango had fallen out of favor largely by the time he came to power. It was considered a sort of gutter art form. It had started in the brothels, and people were sort of ashamed. And he said, no, this is a national art form. And he began bringing tango artists to his political rallies, singers and dancers, and he reinstated it as a great part of the culture. So it was sort of a coincidence, but it also worked very well ultimately.
That's often the way things happen. Coincidences turn out to be the things, like the creative hunch that you're talking about that you mentioned. You go with the hunch and you never know where it might take you.
Yeah, exactly. And this conceit is again something new and hasn't been done before, which is exciting and also a little scary, right? Because you don't know exactly how it will work, but it's important, I think, as artists to take risks. And
yeah. We talked about this, about the little bit about it being scary, but you're at the point where you've already figured out how to get everything on and off stage, and you've really done all your heart. It's really now about having fun. Right?
Well,
so
you
have to put your fears aside and have fun, right?
Yes, and part of the fun, it's what you talk about is important. It's the preparation that one does. There's a great deal of preparation in terms of, figuring out how do we get from this scene to this scene, and who's going to move this and who's going to move that, and how do we, because the other wonderful thing, and again a parallel to Evita, is we have a much smaller cast than the show is generally done with. So in the original Broadway production, it was, 48 actors or something like that. And
how many did you have?
We have 14. So there's a big difference there. And there's a question, it becomes a bit of a math problem. Well, how do we cover all these different characters, or many characters? Who can be in this scene and not in that scene? And there are different communities. There's the immigrant community, there's the Harlem community, and then there's the community in New Rochelle. So how do you represent 3 different communities? It's a very interesting challenge, and it's been part of the fun. But back to
I don't know how you do it. I applaud you. I can't wait to see, especially when I started to reacquaint myself with all the nuances and how big this cast was and everything. I was just blown away.
Well, and the wonderful thing is the audience really gets to know every one of these performers and to sort of see their versatility. There are 4 actors within the group of 14 who don't double. That's Cole House and Sarah, which is one plot line.
Let's show some of the actors. We have a picture of. Is it Derek?
Derek Davis, yeah.
Derek Davis, can we have that, John?
Yeah, and we are super lucky to have Derek. He is such a powerhouse. He's just a fantastic singer. He is a fantastic actor, and he's just an incredible physical presence, as you could just see from his photo. He is. When we met him during the audition process, we had quite an extensive audition process, and when we met him, I was just absolutely blown. You know, what is it? Knocked over, blown away, caught up in his work. It was just astonishing. And I first saw him online because that's how things happen now.
That's amazing to me, how much you can discover online and how much you really.
Well, you really, I mean, for me, I'm old-fashioned that way. I really don't know somebody till I'm in the same room with them. So the first part is online. Generally, the second part, the callback part, is in person now. Fortunately,
but the only thing I wanted to say about online, I realized that when you do things online, you can really see if someone won't work. You can learn how wonderful he is, but you can see if someone's not going to be right for something. It makes it a little easier.
Yeah, I think the actors like it actually because they can do, it's a lot more convenient. They can self-tape on their own time and then submit it. And, you know, I think they're fans of it. So that's good. And they can do a lot more auditions. They don't have to travel as much. It's safer for everybody and all that. So anyway, that's Derek, who plays Cole House and Cole House Walker.
Then Sarah, his love interest, is played by
Kiri Corder is her name, and she's also an incredible performer. And
we have her image too, John.
Yeah, now she's up. I see her.
Okay.
And she, just again, an incredible voice, an incredible actor. We're so fortunate. I don't know how I hope this comes across. This group of actors are absolutely top notch. They're just unbelievably great, and it's been so wonderful to rehearse with them. And they're going to just really blow the roof off the joint. I'm telling you, they're incredible. And so
you have a gift for recognizing talent, because your cast for Evita was also especially wonderful, and they worked so wonderful. I mean, that's one of the things that made it so. Besides your inventiveness,
yeah, and they've all gone on to really. Two of them are on Broadway right now. The actor who played Che and the actor who played Ava are both on Broadway in Moulin Rouge and in, oh goodness, what's the name of that show? Has the red flower as the insignia. Anyway, people will know.
We'll come back to, I don't remember either. Which has the red flower as the insignia, I'm not sure. Anyway, and then we have Mother, who is, do we have Mother played by?
Laura Lee. Yeah, Laura Lee Gayer, also an incredible, what a beautiful voice, what a great actor. And she's able to find, it's the role of the mother in the New Rochelle community. And, it's a beautifully written role vocally. Laura Lee is great because she brings a lot of wonderful colors and humor actually to the role, which I feel like was a bit underserved in past iterations that I've seen.
But isn't she kind of like the emotional center in a way that she grows, that others don't ever?
Yeah, no, she has an incredible journey. She starts as what you would expect from a woman at that time, well taken care of in a prosperous family. She's the caregiver. She, everything is for the husband and her child, and the husband goes off to journey and explore the world. And she begins to ask herself, like, when do I get to explore? When do I get to journey? And her life is changed greatly when her story intersects with the Harlem community, the Cole House Walker and Sarah. Their stories begin to collide, and it is a catalyst for great change. And this is here's an example of the brilliance of the score. The role of the mother starts out as a pretty kind of what we call legit sound, a little more classical sound, a soprano role. And over the course of it, her music changes so that her big number by the end, her voice, which mostly inhabited her head, as we call head, has migrated to her chest. And it's a big kind of belty, fantastic kind of 11 o'clock number. So
her music.
It is all in the music, and her emotional journey is echoed and embodied within the role musically, and it's just brilliant. It's really brilliant. It's an example of these guys' craft. The way that they use reprises, the way that they use certain musical phrases that appear in one context and then repeat in another context. there's just a lot of brilliance shot through this show. The more I work on it, the more I dig into it.
And I realize, we've kind of, I have anyway, assumed that our audience knows this story so well. We haven't really told them what it's about. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll try to do that. Again, I want to leave as much of the story for them as possible. But
just give the intersections, like
sure.
Period. We didn't tell them that even, I don't think.
That's true. That's true. So the piece takes place in New York City, not long after the turn of the century. It's sort of between the turn of the century, prior to World War I. And it centers on 3 different communities, as we did mention: a family in New Rochelle, a white family, and the father, the mother, the son. And they own a fireworks factory and other patriotic accoutrements. And they're, again, the power of the story is the way these 3 storylines intersect. So they have one storyline. Cole, House, and Sarah of the Harlem community, as we mentioned, another storyline. The third storyline, and we'll see the actor shortly who plays the main role in the storyline. His name is Tata. He's a Latvian immigrant who comes via Ellis Island around the same time when lots of immigrants were coming into the country. So all 3 of these stories actually end up intersecting, and it's part of the brilliance of the book. It's also part of the brilliance of the musical, obviously. And in a way, in a novel, it's actually easier. You have more time, you have more space. And the musical has to be quite economical because the songs, we know the songs will inhabit a certain amount, and quite a lot in this case, of the show. So you have these very artful book scenes that come in between that help bridge things. But a lot of the story is actually told through the music. And there are different types of music. There's, just state the obvious, there's a lot of ragtime influenced music, and they really.
Cole House is a representative. He's a ragtime.
He's a ragtime pianist. That's correct. He's a ragtime musician.
One other thing I want to insert too, because it resonated so much for me when I was going over the plot lines again, how timely it is to what we're going through today. It actually hits almost every issue that we are dealing with right in the moment now.
That's correct. And I think it's a great timing for the musical. I think it will resonate strongly with people. And it takes on a lot of issues that really speak to us now in a way that much more so than when the show was first written, which was the early 90s. It's really kind of front and center. Yeah, the other thing I mentioned is counterbalanced with that is an incredible amount of joy and love that occurs. There's a great love story. There are tragic things that happen. There are also wonderful, just fun numbers. There's a whole sequence where they all kind of run off to Atlantic City to get away from New York City. And it's super fun.
It's a real slice of life. It's just real. It's a real slice of life.
All aspects of life. And there are also, from the Doctorow book, and he was really a pioneer at this, he combined fictional characters with historical figures. So as within the book, Houdini appears in the show and is a wonderful presence. Henry Ford appears, J.P. Morgan, Evelyn Nesbit, who maybe people don't know who Evelyn Nesbit is so much now, but she was really kind of the Kim Kardashian of her day. She had a sort of scandalous love affair with an older man who was a distinguished architect at the time, Stanford White. He designed Penn Station and many other famous buildings. He was part of a very famous architectural firm. He was also a showman. He had a theater built on top of a building, and he had this love affair with Evelyn Nesbit. Was only 15 years old when they first met, and ultimately Evelyn Nesbit married a multimillionaire named Henry Thaw, who actually had mental health issues, and found out about her past with Stanford White, the architect, and showed up at his rooftop theater, Stanford White's rooftop theater, and during a show, shot and killed him, in the audience. And then it became a huge trial, and the aspects of her relationship with White came out, and apparently Stanford White built a red velvet seated swing for her to swing on in her underwear, which became this huge, very scandalous aspect that came out in the trial. And she became actually a vaudeville star, and part of her act was she would appear on a red velvet swing. And so all of these events also transpire in the musical in a wonderful way. There's a musical number that deals with her the trial of her husband, Henry Thaw, and she's a witness. I
love all the extraneous characters that they bring in like that are real, that are interesting. John, just real quickly, because we're getting short on time, and we have one more picture of the guy that plays Tata.
Yeah, Tata. Yeah, he's a wonderful actor, Zachary Prince.
Yes.
We'll see in a second. And then also we have a couple more photos of the entire cast. You can see them.
But first, I want to show, before we show the whole cast, after we get to, I want to show the slider for Ragtime. I didn't show that.
Anyway, Zachary. Yeah, we'll get to Zachary. I'll just say, is a wonderful performer. It's one of the great roles, and it's really kind of the heart of the show to me. The immigrant, the Jewish immigrant who comes through. So you want to
recreate himself too, and
that's right. And he has a very big journey. Yeah, he becomes a very successful. Well, we won't even say. He becomes very successful from being almost a penniless immigrant. So you'll have to come and see what happens to him. Did you want to bring up our graphic? It's kind of a wonderful.
Yes, I'd love to see it because I'm sorry, John, I forgot to bring it up at the top of the show.
There we go. And so you see the three storylines represented. There's Harlem on the right. In the middle, we have the immigrants, and on the left is a representative. It's not our actual family in New Rochelle, but they stand in for the family in New Rochelle. I would love to talk about, well, let's see what the next photo is. We can talk about the whole cast. We can talk about the other members of our creative.
We have about a little over 5 minutes. So just to give you a heads up on time, let's go to the rehearsal shots and you can talk about them as they come up, and then we'll elaborate at the end of what we want to hit.
Sounds good. Yeah, so this is our entire company, including I see we have our set designer in there too on the ends and our lighting designer, but mostly it's the actors, a really wonderful group. I can't praise them enough. They're incredibly versatile. They've been really open to this new approach, which means more work for them because they do so many different things, but they're gleefully and joyfully doing it. So wonderful group. So, and then you can go to the next slide. This is looking towards the left. That's our music director. His name is James Bossy. He's an incredible musician. He'll be playing the shows and he's directing the actors musically with their, teaching them the music, giving them vocals, feedback on their vocals. And I've collaborated many times before, a true artist. We can skip me. Then you have on the right side of the screen, that's a husband and wife team, Chris and Lauren Grant. Christopher and Lauren Grant, who are the choreographers, and they are just extraordinary. They're really wonderful. They did a long stint with a wonderful company called Pilobolus. They're really wonderful in crafting shapes of bodies and partnering bodies in space, and it's really come in handy for this piece. They've done a lot of shadow work. There's some shadow work in the show. So anyway, they've been a joy to collaborate with. So it's a really great creative team. And again, it's mostly all of the same designers actually who did Evita. Same set designer. We have this wonderful set designer, same line designer. We do have a different costume designer in this case, who's also quite wonderful. So the clothing is going to be a lot of fun too. You'll see. Oh, yeah, there we have a single shot of, that's Colehouse and Sarah. They have a baby together, as you see. These are all shots in rehearsal, in the rehearsal room. Next, you want to go to the next one? Right, this is the father and mother, the New Rochelle family. Yeah. So that's Daniel Jenkins, who plays the father, who's also a fantastic actor. We're so fortunate to have him in that role. And who do we have next? Those are the two kids. They're actually three kids. These are two of the three kids who appear in the show. One is the daughter of Tata the immigrant, and the boy is the son of the New Rochelle family. And they're great. They will steal your heart, both of these kids.
I think that's all I pulled out of the pictures.
Okay. So there's model, all of us around the set model. Yeah. In rehearsal. Yeah. And we have time for another one. We're back. Okay. So how do you wrap this up, Patrick?
We have a couple of minutes. We have about 3 minutes because you did that really fast when I told you you had 5 minutes. You went into overdrive, but we're good. Yeah. So what else do we want to talk about this incredible production and all the things that it has to say?
Well, I'll say this. Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I'm on the inside of it. I'm enjoying it. I'm very excited about what we're making. I think it will be truly a memorable evening at the theater. I will just say that. It's the biggest cast we've ever had at Bay Street. It's going to be quite an amazing experience that you will remember, you'll talk about, and I think deeply enjoy on many levels. Again, because of the issues it raises, because of this fantastic score, this show has so many, it's just jam-packed. There's a whole fun number at a baseball game that in Act 2, and there's, I don't know, it's just packed one as I'm working, I was like, oh, what's next? Oh my God, it's that. It's so wonderful. Oh, what's next? Oh, it's that. Oh my God, that's also wonderful. There are no kind of, in some shows, and then which is understandable. There are shows where you're like, oh well, that part's okay. Let's wait. Okay, I can't wait to get this next part. Sort of all of this pieces of such high quality. So that's all I can really say about it. And I hope people will come and check it out.
And again, it starts previews on August 2nd.
August 2nd begins performances. It runs through August 28th. So basically the month of August, we run every day except Monday. There are 2 matinee days on Wednesday and Sunday. The full schedule's on the website, of course. And we'll have some talkbacks on Tuesday nights, which we always do. And it's going to be a great, great night at the theater.
Will, I know it's your day off and you're probably tired from all you've been doing, so it's really kind of you to come and chat with us about this wonderful project. I'm so excited when I started delving into it. I can only imagine what you're going through actually getting to do it. I just kind of was recreating what it was about and reminding myself what it was about. And I was getting so into it and I was so excited by it. So I look forward to it.
For me, it's a privilege for me to be able to work on it. I'll say that.
Well, it's going to be a privilege to get to see it too.
I hope so.
So thank you, sir. We'll see you at the opening night, I guess, if not before. Hang in there. Are you getting tired?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a couple more seconds, you really do. I think
45 seconds. Go ahead.
I will say, anytime you mount a musical, it's a bit like running the marathon. You have to pace yourself. You have to use your time wisely, and that's certainly true in this show as much, if not more, than other musicals, just because it's such a big show. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you're good at it. I'm sure you're good at it. You have a long history of being able to do that, of scoring a lot of good successes. So. Thank you so much, Will. It's a pleasure. I'm glad I ran into you at the beach.
Me too. Hope to see you there again.
Yes.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
You too.